A little over 20 years ago, Ford introduced a new small SUV to its lineup in America called the Escape. Now, technically, the Escape was a little late to the small SUV crossover party, but that didn't stop the company from selling a ton of these, and the Escape eventually grew to become one of Ford's best-selling models over the years. Now, since that time frame, we've seen the Escape go through 3 other generations, but the company introduced the all-new 4th generation model back in 2020, and one of the big changes was it reintroduced a hybrid to the lineup after about an 8-year hiatus. Now for 2023, the Escape got some pretty big upgrades in terms of a heavy refresh in the exterior styling, some better tech on the interior, and as you can see this week, we are finally testing out the first ever Escape plug-in hybrid. That's right, a plug-in hybrid was introduced back in 2021, and with up to 37 miles of all-electric range and a combined EPA gas mileage rating of around 40 mpg, this should be the perfect small crossover for a lot of Americans out there. So if you guys have been looking for a mainstream plug-in hybrid small SUV that can do really decent electric-only range, how does the 2024 Ford Escape plug-in hybrid stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start going into the exterior styling changes that Ford made last year, I wanted to show you guys what's underneath the hood, because this model here, the plug-in hybrid, has a unique powertrain, and it is the very first plug-in hybrid Escape when it was introduced back in 2021. Now, underneath this hood, you're not going to find a very pretty engine bay, but what you're going to find here is a combination of a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that runs on the Atkinson cycle. It is assisted electrically by 2 electric motors. So there's essentially 2 electric motors at the front of this vehicle. There is no separate electric motor at the rear, and that's because this model here only comes with front-wheel drive. If you guys want an all-wheel drive Escape, Ford will happily sell that to you with a gas engine or with the regular conventional hybrid, but for some reason, the plug-in hybrid only comes with front-wheel drive, and really it seems sad because Ford could easily add an electric motor at the rear, giving this car all-wheel drive. Now, power output is interesting because in the 2023 version of this car, Ford said it had a combine of around 221 horsepower. For 2023, it dropped to only 210 horsepower. So I'm sorry, that 2022 Escape had 221, a 2023 and so forth has 210 horsepower. The gas engine on its own delivers 163 horsepower. The electric motor delivers around 129 horsepower. The gas engine on its own delivers 155 pound-feet of torque, and Ford does not quote an electric only or a combined torque output. So instead, we have 155 pound-feet of torque. Which again, electric motors produce all their power technically at 0 RPM. It all goes out through a continuously variable transmission, technically an eCVT because of the plug-in hybrid portion. And this vehicle has a 14.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 11.2 of which is usable. So it's a little bit of a small battery pack compared to its competitors. Ford doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. This is not going to be the quickest model in the lineup. You'll get the 2-liter turbo EcoBoost engine if you guys want the quickest Escape. Fuel economy is rated at a pretty impressive 42 in the city, 37 on the highway, 40 combined. That's actually a little bit better, around 4 mpg better versus the combined rating in this car's main rival, the Toyota RAV4 Prime. And in terms of the top speed, Ford says this will do a top speed of around 114 miles an hour. It'll tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds, so at least it still can tow. And as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 4,000 pounds, so it's no lightweight. But again, because it is not available with all-wheel drive, it is lighter versus some of the competitors. But closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling. Now, as you guys know, the Escape got a very extensive redesign back in 2020. And to be honest, personally, I didn't like the way the Escape looked when the car came out. Because as you guys know, Ford essentially split off the Escape platform to include the Bronco Sport, which is built on the same architecture that gives you a more boxy, rugged look. And for the Escape, Ford wanted to make this a more car-like vehicle, and it made it look more like a Focus replacement as opposed to an SUV. Now, you can see this particular plug-in hybrid model that I'm showing you has a premium package, which includes the upgraded coast-to-coast full LED headlights. So you have an LED low and high beam, LED daytime running lights, and you can see here there's an LED light bar that kind of extends from the headlight going into the grille. That's why they call it a coast-to-coast. And again, it kind of connects again to the headlight modules. It's certainly a much more upscale look to it. You can see it also includes LED fog lights. My tester is the Platinum Star White Tri-Coat, which is $1,000 extra. It certainly has a beautiful metallic fleck to it. It looks good with the new grille along with the piano black accents. Down here you can see there are some functional air intake openings. There's like a silver trim there that gives it more of like a skid plate look. But overall, let me know what you guys think of the styling of the Escape. It certainly, I think, looks better on the refresh, but this car's dimensionally still looks a little bit small and puny. It looks a little bit too much like a hatchback to me, and I think that's why a lot of people end up going with the Bronco Sport. It gives you more of that boxy, more rugged SUV design profile. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see because this is a heavy refresh, the Escape is on the smaller end of the segment in terms of the dimensions. At 180.5 inches long, this is around 5 inches shorter than some of its competitors. Its wheelbase is 106.1 inches long. Compared to a Bronco Sport, the Bronco Sport is technically around 5 inches shorter than this car. This is not the smallest SUV Ford makes, but it is the most affordable SUV that Ford makes. Now you can see, looking at the wheels, these are an 18-inch multi-spoke design wheels that come standard on the plug-in hybrid. Ford does offer a 19-inch wheel if you guys go for like the ST line. You can see you have kind of like a multi-spoke look with the machine and black finish design to it. You have a conventional steel suspension, of course, with no adaptive dampers. I think the ground clearance of this car is a little over 8 inches. You can see the fender wheel arch trim is kind of unpainted to give it more of that SUV look. And then looking at the side mirrors here, you can see they're body colored, no integrated turn signals, but you do have a full 360 camera that's included on the premium package. The chrome trim here helps it stand out a little bit more. And then you can see a panoramic sunroof is available, included on this higher trim, which definitely looks great. But moving around here to this profile, you can see this car, to me, looks more like a hatchback, like a tall hatchback versus an SUV. I much preferred the boxier design of the Escape from a couple generations ago. Now, looking at the rear, you can see the rear also got an upgrade in terms of the styling. You can see it's got a full LED taillight design with an LED turn signal, LED reverse light, LED brake lights, which is nice. It spells out Escape at the back with the Ford logo. I still like the fact that you're getting a dual exhaust tip. And then you can see this is your only indication that this is a plug-in hybrid, is that little badge over there, which, by the way, I forgot to show you guys, the plug for this car is located on the passenger or on the front fender of the driver's side. And you can see, open that up, it has the standard J1772 plug. It has a 3.3 kilowatt onboard charger, which Ford says on a level 2, you can charge this vehicle up in about 3.5 to 4 hours. On a level 1, it'll take probably around 8 to 10 hours. So kind of keep that in mind. But let's come back here again, and I can show you guys the cargo area of the Escape hybrid or plug-in hybrid. You can see in terms of the cargo space, a power liftgate's included on this trim. You get a little over 34 cubic feet of total storage space. There's no third row available on this car, but it's pretty class competitive. I think some competitors offer more space, but this is certainly still usable. You can see underneath here, there's a temporary spare tire, which is nice, along with your jack and all your necessary tools. If you fold down the rear seat, it expands the cargo to around 60 cubic feet of space. Compared to the other models, the plug-in hybrid does see a reduction of about 5 cubic feet total for cargo room, but as you can see, it's still a pretty usable amount of space. So the exterior of the 2024 Escape certainly looks very different versus the pre-refresh model, but let's go ahead and hop inside the interior and show you guys that. You can see here is the Ford key fob. It's a very large fob. It's technically their older fob, but it does have intelligent access key system, which means you have unlock, lock, remote start from the fob, power liftgate, and a panic feature. I just think that the key is a little bit too large. It's just bulky when you have it in your pocket and whatnot. But as you can see, approaching the door handle, it's a traditional door handle along with the keyless entry keypad that Ford always does. This car doesn't have a walkaway lock or unlock feature, but there's a little area there. If you touch that, that'll lock the door for you. You can see the mirrors are not power folding. Touch the back of the door handle, that will unlock the door for you as well. Now, looking at the interior, you can see my test car with the Star White Tri-Coat exterior color is complemented by a black interior with this like premium upgraded leather that you get with the premium package, which is perforated. It has kind of like the diamond stitching and contrasting stitching. It looks nice. I would prefer not a black interior, but it's a good color combination with this Star White Tri-Coat. You can see the seats adjust in 10 different ways, and they're heated but not ventilated. You do have a 3-person memory on the driver's side, which is nice. And then in terms of the interior materials, you can see this is a soft touch injection molded plastic. This right here is actually real aluminum. I wasn't expecting to find that. The door handle here also feels like aluminum. There's some ambient lighting behind here. It's nice and padded here. This could be a little bit softer, and then down here, it's hard touch plastic, which is what I expect. There's also a 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen stereo that's included with the premium package that my tester has. And overall, the interior makes a good first impression. Now, stepping inside, with around 8 inches of ground clearance, it has the perfect step-in height for an SUV. It's what people really want. As I get in and shut the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk, which adds to an impression of quality. Now, looking at this interior, you can see compared to the old Escape, it got a big upgrade in terms of the tech. Now, stop button is located here on the lower part of the dash. push that button with your foot on the brake, the engine comes on, or not the engine, the car just whirs to life and it just says ready. Because this is a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, you don't have a traditional starter noise. You can see this premium package model also includes that flip-up plexiglass heads-up display, which I don't like. I really would prefer just a projection onto the windshield. This is a cheaper solution that just doesn't look as good. You can see all the plug-in hybrids come standard with the full 12.3-inch productivity screen for the instrument panel. The steering wheel, you can see, looks slightly different with the piano black plastic. No paddles on the wheel. It has a manual tilt telescoping adjustment, which is good. It offers a good amount of adjustability and range. The horn, oh my goodness, the horn sounds so puny and pathetic. I would definitely prefer Ford use a different tone for the horn. And then you can see on the center stack here, compared to the pre-refresh model, which topped out at an 8-inch display, this is a big 13.2-inch display. I totally forgot that Ford had put the bigger display like this in the Escape. This is among the biggest screens that you'll find in the segment. I think most other competitors top out at around 12 inches. Most have a 10-inch display or a 9-inch display. So this is a nice upgrade. The dashboard here on the upper portion is also soft touch. You have more of that genuine aluminum trim here, which looks fantastic on the dash. Right here, it's also soft touch. Down here, it's a hard touch plastic, which is what I expect, but you can see this runs on Sync 4. My phone is connected via wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I will say Sync 4, once it gets going, works just fine, but there are times where it's very slow and laggy. Case in point, touch that little button there. You can see I touched it, and look at how slow it is to pull up the full actual climate menu. That is super frustrating, infuriating even. And I just find it to be totally unacceptable that it takes that long to adjust. You can see there's your heated seat control. There should be ventilated seats on this car, but Ford does not offer ventilated seats for some reason. It offers one level to the heated steering wheel. I wish it offered two. It's either on where it literally burns your hands, or it's off and it's icy cold. So it would be nice if Ford offered that. You can see you can do a split screen if you guys prefer to have like a separate screen here to make the CarPlay a little bit smaller, or just tap that area here, it expands it out. I really like that feature as well. Going back to the Sync 4 system, you can see it's very slow, but this is how you kind of adjust a couple things. You can go into the features here. You can access your driver assistance, your drive modes, charge settings, power flow. The graphics all look pretty nice, but again, the computing power, the software just needs to be beefed up so it's a little bit faster to use. You can see there's all your different settings and whatnot. So Sync 4, as you can see, looks good, but there are times where I think the system is just too slow and it could really use an upgrade to the internal computer. Now looking over here, you can see you have your volume knob here, your drive mode selectors via that button right there. If you push that, there's like an eco, normal, sport, and slippery. And you can also adjust the EV modes to where you can actually have the vehicle stay in electric only mode, go into an auto EV, which is what it defaults to. There's also a charge mode, and then you can also save the charge in the battery for later if you want to use it on a trip and whatnot if you're going on the highway. But overall, this system works pretty well. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it has a full 360 camera that's included with the premium package. It has trajectory, distance markers, parking sensors, cross-traffic braking. It's all the tech that you want and expect. You see the graphics is pretty much average for the class. And this car also has the automatic parallel park feature. Down here you can see there's two USB charging ports, an A and a C, and you also have a 12-volt power outlet. The wireless phone charging pad actually works pretty well. My phone fits in there perfectly. It's an iPhone 14 Pro Max. Down here you can see, instead of annoying piano black plastic, Ford went with like kind of a low gloss aluminum look plastic trim. This is controlling the CVT transmission with a low gear as well. You have an electronic parking brake along with a brake hold feature, your cup holder, some storage here, and then there's a nice padded center console which delivers a pretty deep storage well as well for storage. You can see the seats. The seats, I actually find them to be comfortable and supportive. They don't really have great bolstering, but on longer trips, you definitely get a sense that these seats are made for comfort, which is good. It's what people want in the segment. Open up the glove box. It's bin style. It's damped, but not lined with felt. You can get a digital camera review mirror if you'd like. My tester doesn't have that. It just has an auto dimming. And then there's a woven material here on the headliner. You can see there's a big panoramic roof that lets in a lot of light. You can also open it up to vent in some air, along with some LED map lighting throughout the cabin. So overall, the interior has a roomy feel. It has most of the tech that you want. But I think that some competitors offer more features. I just wish this car offered cooled seats. It should, considering this price point. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat. This is where the Escape does have one of the bigger back seats in the segment. Ford actually says you have just under 39 inches of legroom back here, which 39 is around 2 to 3 more than some of its competitors. Material quality back here is a hard touch injection molded plastic, which isn't nice. You can see this is at least padded where you'd rest your elbow. And then this seat back, you can see, does give you the ability to fold it down, obviously, and you can also recline it by pulling this and then pushing the seat back, which is nice. The seats don't look like they slide. Actually, they do. They do slide forward and back, which I'll show you in just a second when I get back here. But you can see once I'm back here, pull this, the seat does allow you to kind of recline. The headroom space in here is also pretty good. And then over here, you can pull this, you can slide the seat forward or slide it back. That's with it fully back. Now closing the door, you can see space back here for somebody my height. This is where I'd have the seat to drive. Pretty good amount of leg room. There's almost a flat floor here, but you do have rear seat air vents along with USB charging ports. No heated rear seats back here. You only get one storage pocket here on the passenger side. And then if you want to fold this down here, the armrest, it gives you two cup holders as well. So if you want to use this as a family vehicle, the Escape certainly has one of the bigger back seats in the class, but some competitors do offer heated back seats, which you can't get here in the Escape. So it has definitely been a few years since I had a chance to drive the current generation Escape. Remember, this all-new fourth generation came out back in 2020. And when I first drove this vehicle, it was actually the titanium hybrid, and Ford has completely redone the trim lines since then. But the plug-in hybrid is something that I actually haven't had a chance to drive yet. It's the very first plug-in hybrid version of the Escape when it came out back in 2021. Now, sadly, Ford seems to have downgraded the power for 2023 when they refreshed this car from 221 to 210 horsepower. Unlike Toyota, which makes the RAV4 Prime kind of like the performance version, Ford goes with the more efficiency-minded, because remember, this car is not available with all-wheel drive with the plug-in hybrid powertrain, which is very disappointing for those of you who live in a snow belt state or snow area like my area here. But we've never 0 to 60 tested this plug-in model, so let's go ahead and see what we can get. We have almost a full charge, showing around 23 miles of range left over. Let's put it into sport mode, and then we'll just basically put our foot down and floor it. 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds, basically 7.59 seconds. So that number is acceptable. It's pretty much on par with the last RAV4 hybrid that I tested, I believe. But remember, this is the plug-in hybrid model, so I suspect that the hybrid should be probably the same, although the hybrid is available with all-wheel drive and it is lighter compared to this model here that we're driving. That performance should be acceptable for most, but remember, if you guys are taking a look at something like the RAV4 Prime, that model will get to 60 around 2 seconds faster than this, which is kind of crazy to actually think about. But again, that car is almost like too fast. You don't necessarily need the plug-in hybrid to be that quick, but it's also nice to have. Now, this model also has a very different powertrain setup versus something like the Explorer hybrid or the Lincoln Aviator plug-in. So this model here uses an eCVT. I will say that the transition between EV and gas is a lot better versus what I am accustomed to with a lot of these Ford hybrids. But let's go ahead and see what we can get on this little run here. We'll just put our foot down, we'll floor it. Definitely takes a second for it to actually get its thoughts together to actually accelerate. 8.2 seconds there, so half a second, a little over half a second slower versus when I brake torqued it. I am going more uphill on that run, so 7.6 is certainly acceptable. But again, you don't buy the plug-in hybrid version of this car to win drag races. I'm going to actually try to accelerate off in just EV alone to see if I can get to 60 in just EV and see what we can test it out there. This car does give you the ability to drive on EV power alone, and it allows you to do that for highway speeds and whatnot. However, there is a click point at the end of the accelerator pedal that will wake the gas engine on. It'll actually ask you to confirm if you want it on in the instrument panel before it actually does that, which again is not what something like the RAV4 does. Now, the engine on its own delivers 163 horsepower. The electric equivalent delivers 129 horsepower. So I've switched it over to its Eco setting right now. We're going to switch it over into an EV Now setting. The EV Now setting essentially means that if I have it in this mode, I put my foot down, it's staying perfectly in electric mode, which you definitely feel like you've lost over half the power in this mode. And then again, if I push it past a click point, it says press OK to enable engine. So it actually asks. I like how Ford will ask that. Now, granted, if you guys are trying to accelerate or pass and you're kind of in an emergency situation, you need the power, that will kind of annoy you because it could make it for an unsafe, drive. But it's something that you just have to remember to do. If you drive this car, if you're an owner, you're going to know that. But again, in this mode here, when you put it into EV Now, you can put your foot all the way to the floor and it doesn't turn the engine on until I push the OK button, which I kind of like how it does. Now, between the other drive modes here, if I switch it over into Sport, it doesn't allow me to do an EV Now mode. It's only in the Auto mode where it'll give me full electric and then it'll wake the engine up as well. Normal is where it will give me the EV Now as well, along with an EV charge function or an EV later. We'll switch it over to the EV Now because I do want to test out the 0 to 60 in just electric only for this car. Now it has 2 electric motors. Again, this car is only front wheel drive, and I definitely will feel the electric motor torque just kind of spinning the tires all the time, especially in bad weather. I had a chance to drive this in the rain. It really could use all-wheel drive. I just don't understand why Ford doesn't want to put all-wheel drive on this. The Corsair Grand Touring, which I tested earlier this year, has all-wheel drive, and it has like an extra 56 horsepower. So it would be nice if Ford just used the same powertrain, but they want to give you a reason to, I guess, buy the Lincoln, which is completely different versus what Toyota does with the RAV4 Prime. But let's go ahead and see what we can get here on just full electric. We'll put our foot down, we'll floor it, we'll see what we can get. Foot is to the floor here, come on. You can do it, car. I'm not gonna wake the engine up. I'm not telling it okay to wake the engine up, but let's see what we can get here, come on. Wow, this is really slow. 13.16 seconds, so that is pretty darn slow. For comparison purposes, a RAV4 Prime in purely EV mode will get to 60 in around 9 seconds. So again, the EV mode can get you around town, and actually we'll still spin the tires a little bit there, but just know that it doesn't have the power that you're looking for from some of the competitors. But again, 13 seconds 0 to 16 EV, 7.6 in gas hybrid mode is perfectly acceptable. But most people are going to be buying this and they're going to be caring about the ride quality, the range, the comfort. And I will say that this car has comfortable seats. I like the upgraded seats that you get with the premium package that my test car has with the diamond quilt. It's also a heated seat. No ventilated seats though. Ford doesn't offer ventilated seats, at least not on this trim, which is a little frustrating. I was surprised actually to not see ventilated seats. It also has a heated steering wheel, which the heated steering wheel gets really hot. Same thing with the heated seat. The driver assistance in this car, Ford doesn't offer Blue Cruise, but they do offer adaptive cruise, lane keep assist. It's all pretty much average. It's nothing super special. And the ride quality, I will say that Ford, because they put an 18-inch wheel on it, it's got these really small tires. The ride is good. It has a nice, comfortable ride. It doesn't shudder or like crash over bumps. And it's also really quiet in here. Especially when you have it in EV mode completely, it just is, it feels like an electric car. There's no engine noise. It's hushed in terms of wind and road noise. And it's also relatively easy to see out of. I can see out of the front, the side, the rear pretty well. Ford does offer a digital camera rearview mirror as part of an option package if you guys want that. But overall, as a daily driver, I mean, this car is not the fastest, it's not the sportiest, it's not the most exciting to look at, but it also does everything about average or well, which I think is why the Escape continues to sell well. It's a relatively good car at just doing everything except for the fact that you can't get all-wheel drive in it. Now, in terms of the range, the EPA says this car will go about 37 miles on a full charge. Now, sadly, it's been cold in the week that I've had this car, so it hasn't been able to do the 37 miles in my testing. The best that I could do was around 32 miles was the best that I could get. And again, it is a little bit cold outside. If I ever had one of these when it's warmer, it should be able to get closer to the 37. It's still not as good as the range on the RAV4 Prime, which is 42 miles, and I've gotten as high as like 45, closer to 50 miles in that car when I owned one for a full year. And that's because this car has a small 14.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, only 11 of which is usable. That's literally 50% smaller versus something like in the RAV4 Prime, which has an 18.8 kilowatt or an 18 kilowatt hour battery pack. So to kind of keep that in mind, the Escape could use a bigger battery pack. It could use a separate electric motor to power the rear axle, and that's all something that you can get in the Lincoln Corsair. But overall, the Escape plug-in hybrid is a worthy option in this segment as long as you guys don't need the all-wheel drive. It definitely is the more fuel-efficient option. In my weeks worth of testing in hybrid power, this thing will easily get 42 mpg without even trying. 42 mpg is a little bit better versus the 36, 37 that I got in the RAV4. So that's a reason to go with this car, is because of the fact that it's front wheel drive. It is very, very fuel efficient when you're driving it as a hybrid. For some reason, the trip computer here is not showing my distance to empty for the gas portion, which has been frustrating. It showed it at one point when I got this car, and then it stopped showing it, and I haven't been able to get it to come back. But it's got like a smaller fuel tank, and you're looking at around 400 miles of range on a full tank. So the RAV4 Prime definitely will go over 500 miles. That's another reason why the Toyota is a little more superior. It's just got more range in the electric space, more range in the gas side, and it's just an overall quicker and more pleasant experience. But that's not to say that the Escape's not bad, or the Escape is bad. It just doesn't stand out the way it should. Although Ford did make some nice changes. I especially love this massive screen, although the Sync 4 system can be a little bit sluggish at times, especially when you first start the vehicle up. So after spending a full week with the very first plug-in hybrid version of the Escape, I have to say, when this generation's Escape came out, I wasn't the biggest fan of the styling, and even with the updated changes that Ford has made, I'm still not quite the biggest fan. I would prefer if Ford gave this car a more rugged, boxier look, but that's the reason why the Ford Bronco Sport exists. In terms of the Escape as a plug-in hybrid, I actually really like Ford's plug-in hybrid powertrain. I think it gives you just enough electric-only range to be usable. I think the electric motor horsepower could be beefed up to make this car feel more like an EV, to give you more power to drive this car out on the highway for longer periods of time where it doesn't feel sluggish. The 0 to 60 time in full hybrid mode at around 7.6 seconds is acceptable, but again, the Hyundai and Kia twins that are plug-in hybrids offer more power. And then of course there's the Speed King, the RAV4 Prime, which to be honest is the one to beat in the segment. Toyota really did it right by giving that car the most power in the segment and the most range in the segment. In terms of the handling, the Escape is pretty competent. It handles just fine. It's comfortable, it's quiet, it offers enough space on the inside, and I also really love the tech upgrades. The 13.2-inch display is among the biggest in its segment. It's bigger than something like the RAV4 Prime by about 3 inches. The fully digital 12-inch display also looks good. I just really think for Ford to make the Escape plug-in hybrid more competitive, they really need to add all-wheel drive, add a separate rear electric motor that will increase the power to like 260-ish horsepower. That's essentially what they have in the Corsair Grand Touring, which I had a chance to drive, and improve the electric-only range to around over 40 miles. That's really the kind of the number to go and beat in this segment of vehicle, but it's nice that Ford does give you some of the best fuel efficiency because as I mentioned in the driving scene, over 40 mpg without even trying is excellent fuel economy numbers, and it's one of the reasons why Ford doesn't offer all-wheel drive on this vehicle is to make it more fuel efficient. But again, I think for most people who buy an SUV, all-wheel drive is a must, so I think that's kind of the biggest detractor for the Ford Escape plug-in hybrid. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on a Ford Escape, they're on sale now, obviously, and pricing starts at just under $30,000, around $29,395 for a base Escape with front-wheel drive. If you guys want a hybrid option on the Escape, you have to step up to the ST line trim, which can cost an extra $3,000 on top of the gas engine. So it's around $3,000 extra for a hybrid trim. The plug-in hybrid is going to be the most expensive Escape. It starts at around $40,000 for the base plug-in hybrid. Add the options that my tester has, which is a premium package, the upcharge for the paint color, and this model here with Destination comes in at around $47,195. $47,195 is definitely expensive, and because the Escape's battery pack is a little bit smaller than some competitors, it doesn't qualify for the full $7,500 federal tax credit. The good news is this car is built in North America, so it should qualify for some tax credit, but again, if you're comparing this car to its main competitor, the RAV4 Prime, that model starts at around $44,000, going up to around $52,000 for a fully loaded XSE with the premium package. To me, that is money well spent for a car that is significantly faster, that gives you more electric-only range, that gives you all-wheel drive, that gives you features that you can't get on the Escape plug-in hybrid, like cooled seats. It should be offered, but it's not available for some reason. And to be honest, I mean, you can't really go wrong with either of the two. I mean, the Escape is not a bad vehicle. To me, it just doesn't stand out in the class that continues to get more competitive, and I really would like to see Ford offer this plug-in hybrid powertrain on something like the Bronco and Bronco Sport. I think it would do really well for them as well, although they really need to work on something like improving the battery capacity, the range, the power, and of course adding all-wheel drive. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2024 Ford Escape plug-in hybrid. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.